On a warm summer night in June 1912, the small town of Villisca, Iowa, was shaken forever by a crime so brutal that it remains one of America's most terrifying unsolved mysteries. Even today, more than a century later, the Villisca axe murders continue to haunt historians, paranormal investigators, and true crime enthusiasts alike. Villisca was a quiet, tight-knit farming town with fewer than 2,000 residents. Neighbors knew each other well, and crime was almost unheard of. Among its respected families was the Moore family. Josiah Moore, a successful businessman, his wife Sarah, and their 4 children, Herman, Catherine, Boyd, and Paul. The Moores were well-liked in the community, active in church events, and seen as an example of a loving, hard-working household. On Sunday, June 9, 1912, the Moores attended a Children's Day program at their church. They weren't alone. 2 young girls, Lena and Ina Stillinger, had asked permission to spend the night at the Moore house after the program. Josiah and Sarah happily agreed. That night, 8 people gathered under the roof of the Moore home, unaware that it would be the last night of their lives. When the sun rose on June 10th, neighbors noticed something unusual. The Moore house was strangely silent. Josiah was usually up early to tend to business, but there was no sign of life. Concern grew until a neighbor, Mary Peckham, approached the house. After knocking and receiving no answer, she let the Moore's chickens out and called Josiah's brother. When Josiah's brother arrived and entered the house, he stumbled upon a scene of unimaginable horror. The Moore family and their 2 young guests were all dead. Each had been bludgeoned to death with an axe. Blood covered the walls, the beds, and even the ceilings. The crime scene was so gruesome that it would scar the town's memory forever. Investigators pieced together a chilling sequence of events. The killer or killers had apparently waited in the attic until the family returned from church. Sometime after midnight, they struck. Josiah and Sarah were likely the first victims. Josiah's head had been so brutally crushed that his eyes were missing. Sarah's injuries were almost as severe. One by one, the children were attacked in their beds, followed by the Stillinger sisters. What disturbed investigators most were the strange, ritualistic details left behind. Every mirror in the house had been covered with cloths or clothing. The killer had taken a piece of fabric to cover Josiah's head and even draped clothing over the windows. A slab of bacon was found in the kitchen, inexplicably wrapped in cloth. The axe, belonging to Josiah, was left at the scene, coated in blood. Lena Stillinger, one of the visiting sisters, showed signs of fighting back. Some believed she had awoken during the attack and struggled, suggesting the killer may have targeted her differently than the others. The murder sent shockwaves through Villisca. Residents who had once left their doors unlocked began bolting them shut. Fear spread like wildfire, and rumors about the killer's identity grew. Was it a stranger passing through town? Or was the murderer someone local, hiding in plain sight? News of the killings quickly spread across the nation. Newspapers described the crime scene in graphic detail, calling it the murder house. Crowds of curious onlookers gathered in Villisca, desperate for a glimpse of the home where such horror had unfolded. Despite a massive investigation, no one was ever convicted. Several suspects emerged, each adding layers of mystery to the case. First, Frank Jones, Josiah's former employer. Josiah had once worked for Frank, a local businessman, before leaving to start his own company. Many believe Jones held a bitter grudge, especially since Josiah allegedly had an affair with his daughter-in-law. Could jealousy and rivalry have pushed him to hire someone to kill Josiah's entire family? Second, Reverend Gage Kelly, a traveling preacher. Kelly had attended the same Children's Day program as the Moores and was reportedly obsessed with the murders. He confessed twice to the crime but later recanted, claiming police pressured him. His odd behavior made him a prime suspect, but no solid evidence ever tied him to the killings. A serial killer passing through town was also a theory. At the time, America was plagued with reports of axe murders in several states, often involving entire families killed in their beds. Some investigators believe the Villisca murders were part of this pattern, committed by a drifter moving from town to town. Despite interrogations, arrests, and trials, no one was ever proven guilty. The case went cold, and the people of Villisca were left to live with the chilling knowledge that a murderer had walked free. The Villisca Axe Murder House still stands today. Preserved as both a historic site and a grim reminder of that terrible night, it has become a destination for paranormal investigators and thrill-seekers alike. Visitors claim to hear footsteps, whispers, and children's laughter inside the house. Some report doors opening on their own, objects moving, and sudden chills in the air. Paranormal groups have recorded strange voices and unexplained activity, fueling the belief that the spirits of the Moore family and the Stillinger sisters remain trapped in the home. For many, the house is not just a crime scene, it is a place where the past refuses to rest. So why, after more than 100 years, does the Villisca axe murder remain unsolved? The answer lies in a combination of factors. In 1912, crime scene investigation was primitive. Evidence was contaminated as hundreds of townspeople walked through the Moore house before police could secure it. The small town was desperate for answers, leading to rushed accusations and botched investigations. Without DNA testing or modern profiling, many clues were lost forever. What remains today are fragments of evidence, rumors, and unanswered questions. Perhaps the most disturbing aspect of the Villisca axe murders is the possibility that the killer was never a stranger at all. Many theories suggest the murderer could have been someone from within the town, someone who blended back into daily life after wiping out an entire family. Imagine living in Villisca in 1912, knowing the killer might be your neighbor, your friend, or the man you passed on the street each morning. That fear hung over the town for years, and in many ways, it still lingers. The Villisca axe murders remain one of America's darkest unsolved cases, a blend of true crime, horror, and haunting mystery. A loving family and 2 innocent children were brutally taken, their lives cut short in the dead of night. The killer's identity vanished into history, leaving only shadows and speculation. Today, the Villisca house stands as a reminder of how fragile safety can be, how evil can strike without warning, and how some mysteries refuse to die. Over 100 years later, the question remains, who swung the axe that night in Villisca? And perhaps more chilling, why did they do it?